Who are the top LRs in June 2026? How's it, everybody? Celtic Link here. We got another Dokkan Battle video for you here today. We are taking a look at some of the recent LRs that have released since April of this year. It's been a while since we've done a tier list update, but now that we have a few LRs that we can actually manage and talk about in a video, we're going to build up a new tier list ranking the recent releases. Now, as always, when we rank our units, as you can see here, we do not rank with your traditional top 10s that most other people do. Instead, we use a more appropriate tiered system. This is designed to do multiple things. Number one, it allows you to see just how viable a unit is in relation to other characters who might be at the top or near the bottom of relevancy. It also allows you to see characters who may have dropped in usage but can still be useful. One of the problems with treating LRs in a typical top 10 is, especially this year, most of our characters have been so great, right? You start to fall off the top 10 and people start to forget just how good these units are. A great example of this is how people are looking at Diamond Vegeta, for example. Doesn't always make the top 10 in a lot of people's lists, and a lot of people think he's a lot worse than he actually is. So just off the cuff there. Now, with that said, in order to rank these units, we still look at the same three things we always do. Number one, power, right? How strong is the unit, both offensively or defensively, whatever their role is, right? Is that so great that we can, judge them based solely on that, or are they kind of a more middle of the road character that we need to look at other categories? Now, for that, our other categories that we assess based on are consistency, right? What is the unit's function? What is their role? Do they do it, and do they do it well, and do they do it often? And then finally, versatility. Now, this is a very hard one in this year because a lot of LRs, a lot of characters are very niche in the teams you want them to be on. Not as many units are as versatile as they used to be, so it's more so, right, how many different fights can you use them in based on their team, and what variations of a team can you use them on. With that said, let's go ahead and hop on in to the teams that we're going to be taking a look at, starting with the LR Piccolo and from the Saiyan Saga celebration back in early April. This character released as the Part 2 LR to the AGL Vegeta and Nappa, and kind of really pieced together the team, right? Despite being a super class unit, I think he did end up working quite well on that team to kind of solidify it, give it that little bit extra oomph and damage. Himself, though, does work a little bit better on some other teams, such as a more Power of Wishes centered setup on the Super Saiyan 4's team, or even, and the reason I said, or rather not the Super Saiyan Force team, but on like Tech Vegeto's team, utilizing the Super Saiyan Force, just because you have more characters who can provide orb changing for them, right? Earth Protecting Heroes is probably their better setup. Now, with that said, right, let's look at power. Power here comes in the form of their standby. Their standby brings them into the Goku, right? It will exchange with Goku, and rather than a traditional standby where the characters do no damage, they changed his standby where he's still building up ki, right? You still need to collect ki spheres to launch the Makanko Sapo. However, Goku can actually do damage, though his damage is based on the amount of ki spheres you get, specifically STR ki spheres, so you can easily help that out. Now, the nice thing is they do change STR ki spheres, so you can really work around that, and he can do anywhere from 50 to 80 to 90 million in a turn, depending on how many ki spheres you get. That said, it's not always consistent, that power. All right, finally, right, because you're standbyed for 10 turns, you have a lot of time to actually deal damage as Goku and then launch the Makanko Sapo. Now, that means that the the finish skill isn't as powerful as other skills because you're actually attacking with Goku throughout the whole time. But it is an interesting setup, right? If you can actually get a setup, it can still do some pretty decent damage as you're damaging with Goku. So honestly, they get it pretty. They got some pretty decent power. They're pretty good offensively. Piccolo has some good. Piccolo has some good defense starting out. On top of that, he having the guard and the dodge early on, and then of course after he exits standby, he gets even stronger offensively. And has more damage reduction. So honestly, really good once you come into the Piccolo side after the standby, even if the Goku side doesn't do as much damage. Goku, same thing, right? As long as you get your STR key spheres, he's going to be rocking pretty good with that up to 70% damage reduction. So pretty good there. Now, with that said, the problem comes into what I mentioned earlier for them. Versatility, right? They pretty much only have one team where they can run consistently on. On the AGL, Vegeta, and Nappa team, they are honestly not very consistent, especially in shorter fights, right? Earth Protecting Heroes is a much better. So they do lose some points on versatility, all right? And then finally, their consistency. About the only ding I can give him on consistency is the getting the orbs on Goku. Piccolo is pretty consistent in what he does. You don't have to worry too much about him. It's just getting the orbs of Goku. So with that said, I do think I would probably place him somewhere in S tier here. And then I would probably drop the Int Gohan down to A tier. He's still pretty good, right? Don't get me wrong. I just don't want to overcrowd this up here. He's probably, like, if I were to rank the S tier, he's probably closer to Golden Frieza and Gogeta side of the S tier, is what I would say. Still pretty good, but he does have some issues there. Moving on are Fizz, Goku, and Piccolo, right? These guys are an incredible unit. They received an incredible EZA, stacking both attack and defense in both forms, right? Goku side stacks attack, Piccolo side stacks defense, and that attack jumps quick, right? You only need a couple of turns to exchange into Piccolo, pop that active skill for big damage, and allowing Piccolo to just start tanking just about everything you throw his way while tossing out 100 mil supers on that exchange. And that's because, right, you have that initial bonus for as long as you're getting your key spheres. Now, with that said, right, changing key spheres to STR really helps out the other Piccolo, so you have that to consider. So that they're really designed to boost the performance of him. So because of that, right, their design, I'm not going to go too much further in belaboring what they do, because their design was meant to complement and allow the Piccolo to run better. They pretty much are side by side. They are more, I don't want to say they are more or less the same unit, but you aren't running one without the other, and so that was why I would place them in basically the same spot, which drops another unit down. I think we'll drop into A tier. Now, this is where things get a little tricky for who I want to drop into A tier. I would probably I think we'll move these guys down, the AGL Gohan and Trunks. Yeah, I think they're still pretty good, but them being basically limited to Bond and Master Disciple hurts them a little bit more than it hurts these guys, especially because they're competing for a revive. I know I was a little high on them before, but the more I've used them, especially in these newer fights, I can see where that issue comes up. So that brings us to the end of April Dokkan Fest with the LR Zeno Vegeta. Now, Zeno Vegeta is interesting because he's in a really weird spot, right? He's extremely powerful with the ability to massively raise his attack on his 18 key and greatly raising on his 12 key, which means his initial attacks are really powerful, but his subsequent attacks are even stronger because of that massively raise. He does want to have crossover in a Realm of God's team. His best team is in fact crossover team, especially because once you go into God Vegeta, he can very easily slot one most events with a full crossover setup, right? The crossover setup allows him to be at his greatest potential, but he still has really good potential on the Realm of God's team. Able for power, he is able to throw out 100 mill supers quite easy, assuming rainbow status. On non-rainbow status, you're looking more at about 80, 90, topping it off with his final super at the lower dupe level. Still pretty good. Transformed, of course. Of course, though, again, if not on crossover, he can't go slot 1, but he can still hit those big numbers on the Realm of God setup, especially with the extra support that is headed in the Realm of God's team. Also having the ability to nullify negative effects, right? As long as you have that crossover, very, very helpful in fights like Bio Broly, where the boss can stun. Very, very helpful. So power, he's got it pretty well. Where things come into for him is versatility. As I already mentioned, Realm of Gods and crossover is basically the only two places you can run him. So he loses a lot of points for versatility on that. And then finally, consistency. He's actually pretty consistent, right? He is in those two teams, he is very easily plug and chug. And I mean, honestly, you can get away with him on a few other different teams as long as you have at least a Realm of Gods partner for him who, honestly, right, when you look at your options for Realm of Gods, right, the Blues and the Gods and the Fizz UI Goku Vegeta are great partners for him. So, I mean, it's not that hard to hit, but obviously you do, the more Realm of Gods teammates and support he's going to have, right? Which, again, you may as well be running Realm of Gods at that point. So he loses a lot on versatility and consistency because of that. So for that, honestly, like, I really want to put him up here in the S tier. Because he is better than the Piccolo, right? So I would probably put him up right here, right in front of Piccolo. He is better than the Piccolo and Goku. However, he's not quite at our Z tier level, personally. Now, with that said, the next one we have is the Super Easy A, Beerus and Whis. These guys are incredibly helpful. They're not insanely powerful, so they're going to lose a lot of points for me in power, right? They're not that crazy offensively. They're not that crazy defensively, right? Their main role is dodge support, and they do that pretty consistently. So they do get a lot of points there for that. With that said, versatility, Beerus's team, Realm of Gods is basically all they've got, so they lose a lot there. A little bit Bond of Master Disciple you can get away with, but they still do want that Realm of Gods allies on their Super Easy A. Does it show that here, the Super Easy A? Yeah, they do want those movie bosses or Realm of Gods allies on the turn, so it does kind of hurt them not being on those teams. So without a Beerus, you do kind of really struggle to use these guys because you do need it for his scouter effects, which is kind of the main reason you want to bring him for the Beerus team. And after turn 4, they kind of lose a lot of their defense that they had and that extra dodge, although it's only 20% dodge you use it. But for someone like me, that makes a big deal. So with that said, honestly, I would probably put him where I put most of the other LR Easy A, Super Easy A's for that matter, and that is probably down here in B tier. And it's not that they're bad, it's just that they have one role, they have one team, and they do that role very well, but I mean, it's really hard for them to kind of move any further than this. At least a lot of the other characters here, even the Super Easy A Trunks and the AGL Vegeta, have a few different consistent setups they can work on. Beerus and Whis don't have that. With that said, that brings us to the Puce de Resistance, the Tech LR Turles, the newest LR pre-Tanabata celebration. And honestly, this one's really tough, right? As you can see, our Z tier is already pretty stacked, but he is that good, right? In terms of power, like the God Vegeta, he is massively raising attack and defense, greatly raising on his 12 key. His entrance animation is huge support for his Space Traveling Warriors Terrifying Conquerors team. And on top of that, he gets a domain that buffs the crap out of one of the most common villain categories, Terrifying Conquerors, even more so if they're on planetary destruction. So, and we're talking the difference of jumping this guy from 80 million to 120 million on his supers at 55%. Like it's that impactful, the domain that he has. Add on to the fact that, right, as long as you're getting your 24 key, which is very easy to do once you hit that first 18 key, and even if you just can manage to get the 24 key once, it becomes very easy to hit that. So he's pretty consistent. He's incredibly powerful, tossing out his good offense, good defense, and he is... My only issue with him is versatility. He does want it's not that he wants a primary Space Traveling Warriors or Terrifying Conquerors team, but it's basically because of the domain, you wouldn't really run him anywhere else. And his best partners being other Turleses and other movie boss type characters, you're gonna be running them on those teams anyways. So, I mean, I have to consider the versatility aspect because there's basically only one team where that's possible. But I can't hold it against him too much because, like UI Goku with the domain, why would you run him anywhere else when that's the domain you want? So with that said, I think he belongs right up here in our Z tier still. Powerful, it's still very good. His domain is incredibly helpful. His support is really helpful early on for Metal Cooler's team. He belongs right up here and this team. Now, this isn't specifically ordered, but if you really wanted to order the guys here, I would probably put something like Goma, Vegeta, and UI Goku at number 3, Dama Goku at 4, and then Turles right here. It would probably look something like that, to be completely honest. Like I said, I don't like numbering them, but if you really wanted to just chuck the top 5, that's where I would put it personally. Like he's that good. And he's going to be pretty consistent for those teams. Now, obviously, if you don't have Cooler, it's probably a different story for Turles. That said, right, leading Terrifying Conquerors means there's a good chance, or being on Terrifying Conquerors, there's a good chance he's going to see some huge buffs coming in with a Frieza here very soon. So with that said, guys, that is it for the video. If you like the video, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe to the channel if you have not already, and in the comments down below, let us know what characters do you think belong in the top 5? What do you think of our tier list? How do you like the way we do tier lists? If you're new to the channel, if this is something you like, you prefer, we made this change at the consideration of many of our viewers who appreciate this overarching look at the LRs that we have in game. But I'm curious to see if you're here, let us know what you think of the way we do the tier lists here. And with that said, if nothing else, guys, if you like the video, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and don't forget to check out our Pokemon Leaf Green update. We will be going live this Saturday for the return of the Pokemon Nuzlocke, so don't forget to check that out. I'll keep the link in the description down below. Otherwise, guys, as always, thanks for watching, and aloha.